Stop recording button. Double tap to activate.
Hello, my crafty and creative people. If you're a returning viewer, thanks so much for choosing to come by and stop and hang out with me for a little bit. And thank you for your patience while I provide an introduction for anybody who's new to my channel. Hi, my name's May. I love yarn, I love to knit and crochet, and I also happen to be visually impaired, so I knit and crochet by feel. And I'm on the internet to encourage anybody and everybody, even if you're considered to have a disability, to say creativity is for you. We have to adapt sometimes, even things like knitting and crocheting. And so I want to encourage you, if you're having difficulties with your eyesight, changes in your vision, don't give up on your hobbies like knitting and crochet. Just find ways to adapt and do them with your other senses. So if you are a returning viewer to my channel, you know I love to knit and crochet skirts and shorts. This is if you are blind or visually impaired, you were looking at some granny squares. That's right. These are the flower granny squares. They're white in the center. They have a color called holly berry for the petals. That's a deep burgundy red. And then they have a dark green called ivy for the frame with the granny stitch. And then they're framed by white. And they're on the bottom of a skirt, which the main body is in the color ivy. Well, we're going to take that off the screen for a minute, and we're going to talk about another skirt that makes a common appearance on my channel. Now, both of these skirts are knit and crochet because they're both a combo of knit and crochet. If you're on my channel, you know I love to put the two together. I love to be creative with my crafts. I love to blend them. So they're all knit in the Knit Picks We Crochet Comfy Worsted. So this is the holly berry skirt that's been on here numerous times. The top is knit in holly berry. The bottom is crocheted in the white. Well, I love to make skirts, and I've always done them top down because to me that makes sense, right? You just start casting on stitches, you put them around your waist until it fits, and that's where you begin, and then you just add stitches based upon your own body. To me, skirts are fun because they're flexible. You can make them for anybody of any size. You just fit with their waist, and then you make a couple rows and you try it on, and then you add more stitches to whatever areas you need the most. If you need more stitches in your hips, you just put them in your hips. If you need some on the back side, well, you put them on the back side. You can use short rows on your back. If you need more all the way around, front and back, you can put your increases in a variety of places so they can accommodate anybody of any size. So I love doing a top-down skirt, and that's the way that I made this holly berry one. I started at the top, and if you know, I've done a couple of videos on waistbands. I have one on skirt design and creating waistbands. I have another one on whip stitching, and I always talk about, as somebody who's visually impaired, for my waistbands, I do a ribbed waistband, so it's nice and stretchy, right? I'm stretching it. If you're blind, I'm stretching it. And I make a ribbed casing, and I do it, and then I make what's called a turning row, where you do the opposite stitch. And then I repeat the ribbing for however many rounds I've already done before the turning row, and it needs to be enough to accommodate my elastic. So this particular waistband was done in knit 2, purl 2. I want to say I did maybe 16 rounds in knit 2, purl 2, but I honestly can't remember. So probably 16, and then we did some knit 2, purl 2, and then we switched it up for our turning round and did purl 2, knit 2 for one round only, and then we did the equal number of rounds again so we could fold it over on our elastic. Now for me, with Comfy Worsted, I need 96 stitches around to make it around my waist where I like to have my garments. So, and I work on 2 circs. Now, of course, you can work on 1 circ. That's totally fine. You can work on whatever knitting needles work for you. But I love to work on two circulars and divide my stitches in half. So for 96 stitches, when I start out, I end up with 48 on each needle. So that's easy for me to divide for my knit 2 purl 2, right? Knit 2 purl 2 is 4 stitches. Well, 4 goes into 48 12 times. So that means that I do my knit 2 purl 2 12 times on the front, and then I flip it over and do 12 times on the back, and that's how I start out. So I have 96 stitches done in knit 2 purl 2 divided by 4, right? I take the 96 divided by 4. So I always love to do my skirts top down. It just makes sense to me. Well, as you know, when I saw, I did a granny square video for May 1st from Jayda and Stitches Granny Square. And then I really decided, because it ended up being too many and too big and my project did morphed. You'll see that on a Whip Wednesday video. I made these granny squares and I was like, oh, they're too big to go around my waist for a top, which is what I was thinking. So then I was like, just put them on a skirt. But that, of course, would mean putting them on the bottom of a skirt, right? Something that lacy and that open. You want it towards the bottom of your garment. So that really challenged me to work from the bottom up, which I have never, ever done before. So this is totally challenging me. Well, with each granny square is 21 stitches across. So that means when I have 3, basically, because I had 6, right? So I've got 2, and then I've got a half and a half on each side. That leaves me with 63 stitches per side. Now, if you want to make the math easy and you want a skirt that's got more flare, I probably should have done it. I should have just made 2 more granny squares, right? And I would have just had 8 across. That would have given me 84, a nice even number. And I could have then had 84 per side. But I didn't. So I have 63 stitches on the front and 63 on the back. And that's at the bottom of my skirt. Well, I did some shaping as I went up. Calculating was a little challenging for me, but I did some shaping at the bottom. You can see here, and then I worked it straight for a while and try it on until I figure out I can start doing some more decreases for the hips. After I get around my hips and around my butt, I can start taking some stitches out again. So I ended up, being that this is comfy worsted, I knew I was aiming for about the 48 stitches per side because that's what worked for me.
My favorite crochet skirt from 2 years ago. # crochet, # crochets, # D. For you, AC Crochets.
Okay, well, if you don't know yet, being visually impaired, I access the internet through a screen reader on my phone. And that's what you just heard, my screen reader. It just talks out loud and reads notifications to me. If you're wondering how people who are visually impaired access the internet, that's how. That is a screen reader. It is built into my Android phone. It's called TalkBack. If you have an Android phone, it's on your phone too. Did you know that? Yeah. That little voice that you hear in my phone, if you have an Android, it is in your phone, and your phone has the potential to do that too for you. So, anyways, so I ended up, I liked the 48 with the comfy. But I knew that would take, it would be challenging for me to get there, with it starting out with 63 stitches per side. So I just decreased my waistband down to 45 stitches per side. Now that's something that once you do, you have to figure out what you want to do for your ribbing. Now, obviously, with 45 per side, I still have 90 stitches around. So I could easily do knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, right? And at the first stitch on the first side would be a knit, and then the last stitch on the first side would be a knit. And when I flipped it, I would start with a purl stitch, and then at the very last stitch would be a purl stitch. But I wanted mine to be even and symmetrical, the same on the front and the back. And also, you know what? It's good for me to be flexible. It's good for me to try new things. But that's what I'm all about this year. And this entire project is all about me trying and doing new things. So I said 45 divided by 3. Can I do a multiple of 3? I can. I can do a knit 2, purl 1. So that's what we're doing here with this waistband. We are doing a knit 2, purl 1. And this is what we have at 10 rounds. So when I talk about designing waistband, that's one thing you got to do, especially if you got to determine how many stitches you want. And it's always easier to start when you're designing from the top down, because then you can determine how many stitches you're working with. But of course, if you're working bottom up, you got to be more flexible. So this is what we have so far with 10 rounds of the knit 2, purl 1. Now for a waistband for elastic, I tend to like at least a 3/4 inch elastic. I prefer a 1 inch, but you do you, right? That's what we're all about on this channel, is individuality, you making it work for you. So if you want to use a 1 1/4 inch, a 1 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch, you do what works for you. But I got my roll of 1 inch elastic, and as you can tell, I use it a lot because we're down to the last scrap. Yeah, we are. I think I'm going to be stuck with 3/4 inch elastic for a while. But this is my little roll of 1 inch elastic. Yeah, that's all that's left. So what I'm going to do now is pause here and hold up my 1 inch elastic to my waistband with my 10 rounds. And as you can see, it really barely fits. And then once you stretch it, right, because this is going to stretch, that's the whole point of the ribbing, it really doesn't fit anymore. So that's what you're going to need to do once you get, if you're starting with your waistband or you're ending with your waistband, is you're going to need to know what elastic you're working with and then fit it periodically to determine how many rows, how many rounds of ribbing you're going to need. So at 10 rounds, I'm going to go ahead and need to do at least 2 more with this stretched, and maybe a few more. We'll see. So now I'm not going to do it all with you, but I thought I would do just a few so you can get an idea of what we're doing here, creating the waistband casing and the ribbing, and hopefully we'll get to creating, sorry about that, oh my gosh, I just bumped my camera. So this is what we have with my circulars. I'm working on 2 circulars. We're working on a US size 7 needle of 4.5 millimeter. So we're going to go into the first stitch. We're going to knit the first stitch. We're going to knit our second stitch. And then, because we're doing knit 2, purl 1, we're going to purl our third stitch. Okay? And then we take our yarn back to the back. We knit 1 stitch, we knit 2 stitches, bring our yarn to the front, and purl a stitch. And that's all you do with ribbing based upon the number of stitches that you're working. Knit 1, knit 2, and purl 1. So I'm going to go ahead and complete round 11. Also we're at round 11. We're going to complete round 11. I'm going to probably complete round 12, and then we'll take a look at round 12 and see if we think that is big enough for our elastic or not. And I do knit by feel, so I probably knit a little bit different, right, than maybe how you knit or how you've seen other people knit. But that's okay because I'm knitting. So if you're visually impaired and you need to adapt knitting, then you adapt knitting, okay? You do it so that you can get your stitches on the needles. That's really all that matters. If you knit differently than other people because of a disability or whatever needs you have, I don't really even understand the different styles of knitting. There's English knitting, there's continental knitting. I believe I'm a continental knitter, except that most people who continental knit, they pick out their stitches. And being that I am visually impaired, I can't really figure that out because I can't see the yarn to pick at it. So I end up kind of, I believe, what's called throwing. So I continental knit and I throw because I literally kind of just place my yarn over the needle because I have to feel everything that I'm doing. I have to do it by feel. And so for me, as somebody who works by feel, it just works better for me to just take that yarn with my hands and wrap it around the needle and do it that way. If you can pick, good for you. I think you do you. You do what works for you. Am I a slower knitter than other people? Yes, I am. I fully admit that the way that I knit makes me slower than a lot of people. But I'm still knitting. And to me, that's what makes me happy. So if you have to adapt knitting, even if it means that you work slower than other people, right? I do have some tension issues sometimes because I'm not tensioning. If you're picking your yarn, you can keep it tensioned and then just grab it with your needle. And I can't grab it with my needle because I can't see where my yarn is at and where my needle's at in space in relation to each other. So I have to manipulate the yarn and the needles with my fingers. So don't be afraid to do that for yourself, for whatever your needs might be in the crafting space. If you can't do it the way somebody's trying to teach you, then you find a way to do it that works for you. Okay, so I am almost to, let's see, I got my last 3 stitches on the first half of my skirt, so we will have made it across the first 45 stitches, around 11. I'm going to turn these, I'm going to try not to bump the camera again and jiggle it, because I know people don't like that when they can see. It make you feel kind of dizzy and seasick and all that kind of stuff when people's cameras are jumping around, right? So I don't want to do that to you if possible. I'm doing what I can to stay on camera, but that can be kind of challenging for me because I can't really see what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and finish working. This is the second half of round 11 on our knit 2 purl 1 waistband. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera here and finish working round 11. And then I will work round 12 as well. And then I might stop and feel it after the end of round 12. I don't know if you need to see that or not. But I might have to work past 12. I might work to 16 rounds and then do the turning.
Red circle, kind and bridges. The real supernatural Christian life.
Do the turning. I don't know. We got some kind of announcements going on my phone, and do the turning row with you, because that's really what I want people to see, is how I, as somebody who, sorry about that again, I keep bumping my phone. What I want people to see is how I create that turning ridge, because as somebody who is visually impaired, the only way that I can sew a waistband casing from my elastic straight is to create that tactile ridge on the inside of my garment. If you can see, then you can probably see straight enough that you wouldn't have to do that. You wouldn't have to create. Now, I know that there are plenty of sighted people who do that, who do create a folding. I think it's called a folded hem or a folded round or something like that, who do that just because it looks nice, because it's still easier for them. And just because you can see doesn't mean you can see and sew straight, right? Just because your eyes were born functional. The majority of the cells in my eyes are not attached to my brain. So that's what that deal is with my vision situation. So even though I do have some sight, I really can't see straight. I have very different visual acuities in each of my eyes that don't work together. I've got all kinds of issues that keep me from seeing straight, and I can't sew straight at all. And so for me to try to sew across a waistband, to sew in the elastic inside of a casing, if I didn't create a tactile ridge that was straight across the knitting that I could fold, there would be no way that I could get that straight. Okay, I can't write straight. I can't cut paper straight when I wrap Christmas gifts for my family. It is wonky. It is crooked. My family knows that, okay? So, I just can't do it. Now, I'm trying to figure out ways that I can adapt sewing for me so that I can sew straight. But right now, with knitting, the easiest way for me to do that, and because it's going on the inside of the garment, to make that waistband casing, you fold it over on the inside. The easiest way for me to do that is to just create one straight row that is tactile, that I can feel where I want the fold. So that's what I want you to see. So if you're visually impaired or you're blind and you're thinking, how can I do a waistband? How can I sew my elastic in when I can't see straight? That's what I want people to see today. How you create a turning round for your waistband ribbing. Okay, well, we're at the end of round 11. I just keep talking, but I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera now, and I'm going to go ahead and do at least round 12, and I'll get back with you.
Double tap to activate.
Alrighty.
Pause.
Okay, well, I have knit 2 more rounds of my ribbing. That's at 12. But even with that, with it stretched, to me, I like to have a little extra room when I sew, because I don't want to accidentally sew down the elastic, right? I want enough room that I can sew and make sure that I don't get the elastic, because then it won't stretch if it's sewed in place. You want the elastic to sort of be free to do what it does, to stretch and flex within your casing. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again, work a few more rounds. Now this video might get stopped and I might have to start a second piece, and if I do, what I will do is then try to put them together in my video editing app. It might be a little choppy if I have to do it that way, but it'll still work. Alrighty.
Pause.
Okay, well, I went ahead, I checked it out at 14 rounds, and yes, the 1-inch elastic did fit in there, but it was still kind of tight. I like to leave myself plenty of room for my stitching. So I went ahead and went the full 16 rounds, because I know by the time I stretch that out, by the time it's, on my person, I'm going to want lots of room to sew. So this is 16 rounds stretched out with my 1-inch elastic. So that is wide enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and create a turning row now. And this is really what I wanted people to see. How do you create, if you can't see, how do you create that tactile row so that you know exactly where to fold, and so that your fold is straight, so that you can sew straight? So whatever you did for your ribbing, for your tactile folding ridge, you want to do the opposite for just one round. So that's what we're going to do now. So since I did knit 2, purl 2 for this turning ridge, I did knit 2, purl 1, pardon me. I did knit 2, purl 1. I usually do knit 2, purl 2. So, but for me, since I did knit 2, purl 1, I want to do a purl 2. I just purled 2. Now I want to knit 1. Now I'm going to purl 1. Purl 2 and knit 1. Take my yarn back to the front, purl 1, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, purl 2, knit 1. So whatever you're doing for your ribbing, if you're doing a knit 2, purl 2, then you're going to do a purl 2, knit 2 for your turning fold. Okay, so that's basically what I want people to see, is that whatever rib pattern you're using for your, it can be for a waistband. I also use this on cuffs for stockings, like if I want to do it over the knee stocking, or even just a knee-high stocking, something that I want to put elastic in for any reason to help it stay up, stay in place. Yeah, I go ahead and create, and then the amount of rounds that will fit my elastic with a little extra room for sewing, and then I create a tactile folding row by doing the opposite for just 1 round. So that's what I'm doing right now, because I did knit 2, purl 1. I'm doing purl 1, purl 2, and then knit 1. Yarn to the front. Oopsie, I missed my stitch. If you're stitching by feel, that can definitely happen. You miss your stitch. Purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 1. All right, do the opposite of whatever it is. Purl 1, purl 2, and knit 1. Okay, so I'm going to pause the camera and I'm going to go ahead and complete my turning row. You can already, I'm sure you can already see it a little bit if you have some sight. I can certainly feel the difference. So I'm going to pause the camera, finish this row, and then I'll get back with you.
Pause.
Okay, so I have just completed 1 turning row, which is the opposite of whatever stitch you're doing. Alrighty. So I can certainly feel it, and I am imagining that if you have some sight, you can see that those stitches are the opposite. So to continue with your waistband casing, because I did 16 rounds of knit 2, purl 1 ribbing for the one side, we have to do, oh my goodness, sorry about that. I bumped that camera and then tried to steady it, and I think I possibly stuck my finger on there. So pardon me. What I need to do now is the opposite. Okay, so not the opposite. I did my opposite row for my turning fold. So what I need to do now is the other side, is what I was trying to say. The other side that you fold to encase it. You're making a waistband casing, an elastic casing. So if I did 16 rounds, then I need to do, after my turning round, I need to do 16 more rounds, right? So it's the same on each side. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do right now. Knit 2, purl, oops, I think I missed my purl stitch. Nope. Purl 1. Right, we're back to the original ribbing that I was working on. Knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1. And I'm going to go ahead and do that across the entire round again, but I'm sure as if you can see, then you're going to be able to see that already, that there's a difference in the stitches there. You're going to be able to see that tactile ridge that we're creating. Okay, so that's what we're demoing today, how to create a tactile ridge or a folding hem for elastic casings, whether you need it for a waistband or whether you're doing it for a cuff on socks. That's how you do that, to create something that you can feel so that you can sew straight. Alrighty.
Pause.
Okay, so this is, I did the turning fold, the tactile turning fold, which was the opposite, and then I did one round of knit 2, purl 1. So hopefully sighted people can see that a little bit, and you can clearly see, and I can clearly feel the tactile ridge. Now, because I did 16 rounds of ribbing, I'm going to have to do 15 more rounds of ribbing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the camera, say bye-bye for now. But I probably will go ahead and put this in the editing app so I can splice it together so I can let you see. Probably won't be for another day or so before I have that done. I do have some other things I want to do and work on. So anyways, I will go ahead and splice those together. Might be a little choppy, but it will give you a picture and a look at what it looks like. So until then, it is still May, and it is definitely still Stitch Every Day in May. Alrighty.
Pause. Boarding button.
Hello, my crafty and creative people. Okay, I started this video on one day, and then, life. So this is the next day. I'm going to have to splice these together. But we talked about creating a folded hem or a tactile ridge for this skirt. And if you're blind or visually impaired, it is still the same skirt with the white hollyberry and ivy granny squares at the bottom. And because I did the 16 rounds of the ribbing, which even stretched, it's more than adequate for a 1-inch elastic. So I probably could have gotten away with 14 rounds, but sometimes I just get to stitching and, things get, I just keep going. So, if I have 1 1/4-inch elastic in the house, I could certainly use that. I don't know that I do. So I'll probably just stick my 1-inch elastic in there and call it good. But I wanted to bring this back to you so you could see what it looks like. So we've got the granny squares at the bottom, and then we've done our shaping on the side a little bit, did some decreases, kept it straight for a while, got past the butt area up to the hips, did some more decreasing, tried it on. I try on my skirts a lot. It's obviously a little more challenging to try on a skirt that you're working from the bottom up because it won't stay on by itself till you take out enough stitches. But I did work some decreases, tried it on again, felt that was good for the ribbing. So we've got our knit 2, purl 1 for 16 rounds in the ribbing, And then the purpose of this video was to show you how to make that turning round, the purl 2, knit 1. So whatever you do, you just do the reverse, and then you need to do the equal number of rounds because we're going to fold that over and encase our elastic. So I've already gone ahead and bound off the first half, right? The front half or whatever of the skirt. So this is what it should look like for you. You should have your ribbing, you should have your turning row, and then you should have equal numbers of rounds of ribbing. So that's what mine looks like. That's what my bound off edge looks like. And then of course we'll put the elastic inside, and we do this on the inside, right? To do it, I did a whole nother video on skirts. I think it's called skirt design, and then plus I have another video on whip stitching. So I've showed this to you in detail there. You put your elastic around your waist where you want it, and that's totally up to you. If you want it high-waisted, put your elastic way up around your natural waist, high-waisted. If you want it just above your belly button, which is what I think, you know, sometimes I do, or belly button, or just below your belly button, or hip area. Well, you get to decide. That's the fun of making your own garments. You get to decide where you want it to fall on your waist. So you put your elastic around your waist, and then you snug it up, right? Because you want the elastic to be tight, and then it stretches around you so that it, you know, does its elastic thing and stays on. So you wrap that elastic around you, and you'll end up doubling it up. You'll fold it over about, probably with this piece of elastic, for me it would be about like that, doubled up. And then you want to pin that elastic in place wherever it is that you want it. And then you on the inside, you turn it inside out, and then you just fold that over and you whip stitch it inside. And I have a whole video on whip stitching. But that's why you want the same number of rounds on each side, so that you're creating like a little pocket there for your elastic. So I still need to bind off. I've got half of my skirt bound off. I took that away from the camera so I could get it straightened out with these long needles. And when I do it under the camera, I just find that then I end up bumping the camera because I can't really see what I'm doing, and then it jostles the camera. So this is what we got. My last stitch that I worked was a purl stitch. Now I tend to bind off tight because I often don't use the tip of my needle because I can't see what's going on there, so I use my fingers, so it ends up coming off tight. So this last stitch was a purl stitch. So there's a number of things you can do. If you bind off tight, there's a number of things you can do, and one is just to increase your needle size. I'm using a US size 7 or a 4.5 millimeter needle, and I could just jump that up to a 9. I could just go to a 9 or a 5.5, and that would give me more room. So that's one way, if you bind off tight, that you can deal with it. What I like to do is, we're going to go ahead, I've got one stitch on my right hand needle, the purl stitch. I'm going to go ahead and knit the next stitch. Now I've got 2 stitches on my right hand needle, and I'm going to go ahead and stick my left hand needle back. Let's see, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to stick my left hand needle into those 2 stitches, put them back on the left hand needle, and then I'm going to get my right needle into the back, and we're going to knit those together through the back loop, and that creates a whole extra stitch, and that will give you more stitches so that it won't be so tight. So I'm going to go ahead and knit the next stitch just like normal. 2 stitches on the right hand needle, and then I stick my left hand needle into those 2 stitches, transfer them back to the left hand needle, stick the right needle into the back, knit those together through the back loop. Those two become one and they create an extra stitch in there. Now this is my purl stitch. Now I don't want to do that with every single stitch because then I would be doubling my stitches completely, and for me that just ends up being a little bit too loose and too wide. So I'm going to purl this next stitch. Now I'm not good at purling two together through the back loop. I often drop the stitch and then it's running and it unravels, and we don't want that. We're so close to being done, right? We're on the bind off. The last thing you want to do is have your project unravel. Now if it does, because that does happen to me, this is on the inside of a waistband, so I can, grab that stitch and you're not even going to see it. It's going to be on the inside of the garment, so it would be okay. But instead, because I don't want to double my stitch count, I'm going to go ahead and just bind this one off normally. And as I've said, if you're sighted and you can use the tip of your needle, you got good eye-hand coordination to bind off, just use the tip of your needle. But if you're like me and you can't see, just use your thumb and index finger and pull that off the top. So pull that first stitch over the top of the second stitch and off the end of the right hand needle. And now you're just back to one stitch on your right hand needle. We're going to move the yarn to the back, and then we're going to knit the next stitch. Now we're back to 2 stitches on the right hand needle. We're going to stick the left hand needle back into those 2 stitches. They're back on the left hand needle. We're going to stick the right hand needle into the back loops of those 2 stitches, and we're going to knit them together through the back loop, creating an extra stitch. 1 stitch on the right hand needle. We're going to knit the next stitch just like normal. 2 stitches on the right hand needle. Left needle goes into the front. We got 2 stitches back on the left hand needle that we just worked. Right hand needle goes into the back loops of those 2 stitches. We knit them together through the back loop, creating an extra stitch for more stretch. Then we take the yarn to the front. We purl that next stitch, and then because I can't see what I'm doing, I'm just going to use my thumb and index finger to do this. I take the first stitch on the right hand needle, I grab it with my thumb and my index finger, and I pull it over the top of the second stitch and over the end of the needle. We're back to 1 stitch on the right hand needle. Yarn goes to the back. We'll do it one more time. We're going to knit the next stitch. 2 stitches on the right hand needle. Stick the left hand needle into the front of those 2 stitches, and then we're just going to yarn over and knit those 2 together through the back loop. I don't know if I did that correctly. That's the problem sometimes. If I don't reposition that, then I end up losing the stitch. So I'm just going to take that out, undo it. Okay, go in through the back and yarn over and knit those together through the back loop, and then we're going to knit the next stitch just like normal. 2 stitches on the right hand needle. Left hand needle goes into the front of those 2 loops, and then we wrap the yarn, and then we knit them together through the back loop, and we're back to 1 stitch on the right hand needle. Yarn moves to the front, and we purl that stitch just like normal. And then I just take my thumb and my index finger, grab the first stitch, right? Grab the first stitch on the needle and pull it over the top of the second stitch and over the top of the tip of the needle. And then we just move our yarn to the back again. And we do that all the way around till we get to the end of our project. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera. I think you probably get the idea. I'm going to pause the camera. I'm going to finish my bind off, and then I will show you what it looks like. Okay.
Pause.
Okay, we're back. Here is the whole edge bound off with some extra stitches. This is what your skirt or your Whatever you're making your casing for. If you want to make it for a hem, you can do it that way and not put elastic in it. Some people just like to make a nice straight little folded hem. But if you're making an elastic casing for a waistband on pants or skirts or shorts, or a cuff on socks or knee highs, this is pretty much what you're going to get for a finished project. You're going to have your ribbing, your turning row, and then your equal number of rounds of ribbing, and then your bind off. And that's what it's going to be. You're going to put your elastic in there. Here, we'll turn this up. Now, I did make a mistake. I just finished my bind off, and I did do something kind of silly. I cut my yarn, right, and tied it off. And what I should have done was measured and guessed about how much yarn I would need to whip stitch it on the inside, and I completely flaked on that. And that's okay. I can still cut some new yarn and whip stitch, but ideally that's what you would do when you get to the end on your last stitch. You would, before you cut your yarn, you would kind of measure around, probably 3 to 4 times around the distance that you want to work, and then the circumference, and then you would cut your yarn so that you would have enough to just start whip stitching from there. But of course, it is doable. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn the skirt inside out for you so you can see. So here we go. This is the inside of the skirt. And now we've got our elastic, and we're going to put our elastic on the inside of the skirt. And then I will put this on. I will put this on my person, the elastic, right? And that's what you need to do. You need to put your elastic around your waist, wherever you want it, and measure it and determine where you want it. And then you want to pin that in place, and then you want to sew your elastic on the inside with just like a basic running stitch. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's going on the inside. And then once your elastic's in place at your desired length, then you just fold down this casing that you just made, that you just created. So you've created a tactile seam. So if you're like me and you're visually impaired and you can't see straight and you can't sew straight, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be able to get a relatively straight edge when you sew. Because of that, you can easily feel that little ridge in your fabric, and you're going to fold right along that ridge. And then so you basically take it, you put the elastic inside, you've created a little pocket, you fold along the tactile seam. It's easy to feel if you're sighted. It's easy to see. You fold it in half, you encase it, and then you'll put your needle in and you will start whip stitching. And if you want to see that, I have an entire video on my channel that just says whip stitch, and that is where we whip stitch together the elastic casing for the Astoria tonal skirt with the points. So that's the end of the video for how to create a folded hem tactile ridge for waistbands, hems, and cuffs, and whatever else you might want to do with it. So thanks so much for watching and tuning in. And until next time, happy stitching.
Pause button.